Welcome. We're so excited you guys are here for episode 23 on loss. Kristen, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. How are you doing today, Becky?
I'm doing great as well. We're both really happy and we're going to talk about kind of a sad topic. So that's okay. That's how it goes sometimes.
We do that.
We do that. But,
Mhm.
it's important to be real. So loss is very personal for me. I've experienced quite a bit of loss in my life, actually. And so we wanted to talk about it because there's various types of loss and the feelings are generally the same. And we wanted to just offer some understanding and help to others, a little bit of validation and ways to love yourself through it. So when we talk about loss, we're talking about anything and everything. Losing someone you love, losing a job, losing some papers in your house maybe that you really needed, losing a file on your computer, having to start over, right? There's different levels of loss, but generally the same emotions accompany them. So primarily with loss, you're going to feel raw. Sometimes you feel hollowed out, like empty. You can go into a numbness. Your brain will slow down, slow the power mode and try and help you through it. So if it's too painful, you really will go into a sense of numbness, even for a year, just because your brain does not want anything bad to happen to you. So it's going to shut down as much as it can. There's a definite fog that accompanies loss. You are processing so much, and the brain can only handle so much at once that you probably will feel like, why is it taking me so long to think this through? I feel slower. That is all just the brain's design to help you stay safe through this. In loss, you're going to feel uncertain, scared, afraid. You'll feel as if life might never be good again. There can be accompanying darkness and depression, despair, even some anxiety. You will feel physical aching of your heart and your mind. So we want you just to remember all these feelings are valid. You need to honor these feelings. They're all okay. They're normal. Everything that you're going through is normal. It's so hard to lose someone or to lose a dream of someone or something for someone that you love. It's so hard to have all your hopes and expectations taken from you. Normally people live life, they have their children, they grow up, their parents die, which is hard, but in a perfect world, they're in their 90s, they've had a great life. It's just the natural order of things. But when that gets interrupted by loss of a child or a spouse, someone young who seemed to be in the prime of their life, it awakens us to our sense of our own mortality. And we can just start to wonder, like, is anything safe, right? Do I have control over anything? Truth is, you really don't. The thing you have control over is yourself, your emotions, and what you do with it. Because who knows? And I don't want to get morbid, but like today could be my last day. You never know. So, really, the point of all this is just normalizing what we're going through and what you might be experiencing. Now, COVID added a new lens of loss, like loss of being in person with people that you love, especially the older generation, those in assisted living centers. They were already isolated enough, and then to have this fear of this virus that could kill them, and then their loved ones have had to stay away so they don't share it. It's just a whole new level of loss of that interaction with people and loss of financial situations for people and business owners. I mean, we could go on and on about just the losses from COVID alone. But right now, we're just going to stick to loss in general and talk about how we can get through it.
Thank you so much. That was really great. There's a lot of really, really helpful information. One thing I thought about when you were saying different types of losses, even, the loss of some papers in your house. Um, I thought about weight loss, losing weight. That can change the way you feel about yourself. It can open up fear about things happening to you. It can create a whole different feeling of a different kind of identity. So you could like lose an identity, a feeling of your identity of being a heavier person when you lose weight. So, you're right. There are so many kinds of losses, and none are more none are worse than another. I mean, sure, some are more severe than others, obviously, but every kind of loss should be respected and honored because you had a dream, the loss of the dream. I'm glad you mentioned that. The loss of the dream that you had of your life, right? Of
Mhm.
you had of this, even if you had of having the papers where you thought you had them, there was a dream in that. It might not have been a big, huge dream. I've just been like, this is my dream of being organized. I know where everything's at. And now I lost this paper and this dream is gone, like it's going to create some emotions, and that's where we want to be is like really being okay with, well, even though I only lost these measly papers that really don't mean anything in this, grand scheme of my life, it's just so important that you feel frustrated. So feel it, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Great point. And as you say, feel it. I just want to assure people that this might be the darkest time of your life, but you won't feel like this forever. And that is a guarantee because we're always growing and evolving. And grief and loss, they're not linear. So it's not like you're going to enter different stages and at a certain period of time, you'll just, let's transition to the next one. Now I'm done being angry. Now it's time for acceptance. That's not how it goes. You're going to bounce back and forth to all of them, lingering one and longer, lingering in one longer than you expect sometimes. So like I said earlier, we want to honor all these feelings. And I do want to say though, if you find yourself unable to handle the anger, right? You're lashing out at your loved ones, you're lashing out at strangers, get some help. It's time to get help. It's time to swallow the pride and go find a counselor or therapist or a group that can help support you through this. If you're pushing people away, if you're feeling so much despair, you can't stop crying, right? These are indications that you have kind of stepped past normal grieving and you need help. And there's no shame in that. That's why these people exist. That's why support groups exist, because we need that support to get through it. Just having someone understand you will be so healing. It'll be great for you to be able to talk to someone who is trying to understand but doesn't. Talking to someone who gets it, they might not understand you perfectly, but if they've been through it, they're going to know what you've been through, those stages that I've talked about, and they'll be able to just offer that understanding and full acceptance of whatever you're going through.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to have support, especially when you're going through very hard times that really shake you to your core and create this feeling of not being able to move. You're almost paralyzed with fear or sadness, or you just feel so overwhelmed and exhausted and you can't get out of bed and you can't function. Sometimes things in life, these losses of these big dreams or these people or these relationships are so immense for us that um, really navigating through the grief is very helpful. And when you're all alone in it, you just feel so inundated by it. It's just you just feel so lost and trapped underneath it. And sometimes for me, I know specifically in some of the things I've lost in my life, I've spent a lot of time going back and forth between, you want to jump right to acceptance. Well, it's done. It happened. It's over. They're gone. But you don't. You can for a little bit, but you can't because there's a part of you that's not going to let you just be okay with it. There's going to be some reminder of you that you still need to grieve this. You still need to go through the anger and the bargaining and the sadness and everything. And the denial and bargaining for me are huge. I stay in denial and bargaining till the cows come home, because going into the depression part, even though that's the most healing, is very hard, a very hard transition. And sometimes you're in it, like you're saying, Becky, in it, out of it, going back and forth in the stages. But the depression part makes people afraid that they're going to stay in the depression. But it's just one part of this. And this was a very big loss for you. You might be in that sadness for a longer time. It's a family member, a divorce, a child, anything happening in your life that's just was so important to you that it's gone. It could be a lot of crying. And it's okay. You need to cry. If you're crying, you need to cry. Doesn't mean you're weak, doesn't mean you're a baby. You should be sad at sad things. You should be sad at sad things. I will repeat that.
Yeah, exactly. As you were saying that, I was just thinking, and I told a friend this because her dad recently passed away and she's kind of worried about her mom. They've been married for so long right now. She has to manage life without him. I wasn't, and I've prefaced it like I'm not trying to make any of this seem any harder, but just so you know, like this second year will probably be worse than the first because of that protection mode that our brain goes into and that shock where it kind of just numbs the feelings a little bit because it is so intense. And as you come out of that, you're like, I thought I was going to be better, right? I thought I would be past this. First of all, you're never going to get over it. You just don't. That loss is part of you. You learn to maneuver around that hole in your heart, and it does lessen in intensity. But that person that you loved, you're going to miss them. You will have reminders of them periodically forever. So that is okay. Like, I just want to set that expectation out there. You're never, quote unquote, getting over this, and that's okay. But that second year, right, when the holidays and the birthdays and all those things come up and you're like, why am I not feeling better? Or just be gentle with yourself through all of this and just remember, like, there's no timeline on this. But you can handle this. You were built to handle this. We are so resilient as humans, and we've bought this lie that we're delicate. But we're not. We can handle this, and you too will get through this. You were meant to. As long as you can be gentle with yourself, don't shame yourself, take care of yourself, because grief is so exhausting. Kristen, do you have some good tips on self-care during loss?
Well, I think I do, but I also want to say that when you said that part about people, make it seem like we're these delicate beings, it's very true that we're not, that we are very strong. And the strength comes when you have that emotional baggage released from your body. Like when it's released from your mind and your body, you're stronger. You can handle it. You're more equipped to sort of understand yourself. You have that self-awareness, and you can understand other people better, and you have more compassion for yourself and others. And when we just keep loading it on and we're heavy with grief and loss and pain and all that all the time, we're just, we're not clear. We're not clear in our head. We don't have the clarity. You have a lot of clarity when you cried it out and you're in a more balanced place. But when you got this happening and that happening and just piling on and piling on over, and you have so much stress and so much sadness and so much shame and everything. I mean, if you think about it, how could you possibly know the next right step? You just don't. You're just like, I'm just going to scream, or I'm just going to lay down and sleep for 6 days, or I'm going to eat a whole bag of Hershey's Kisses. Like, you're just going to like numb out because this is so overwhelming. So when you feel that pain, just cry it out, people. I'm telling you right now, just get it out. I don't care if you scream in your car, get it out. Because, and I know we say this so much, but when you brought up the resiliency thing, I thought, we are strong, and we are even stronger when we don't have all the emotional baggage. How can you not be stronger when you're lighter? It's like, yep, I'm over that. And now I can actually tend to my life in a healthy way and to the people I love in a healthier way. So yeah, so I think my biggest tip of all is, if you're feeling sad, you just go ahead and feel that feeling. It's always going to be my biggest number one. But self-care wise, sleep, make sure you sleep. Make sure you eat nutritious foods when you're going through pain, loss, and fear, like from loss and things like that. I know sometimes hard to eat and sleep when you're going through something big. That is definitely, I'm not even making light of that. I know personally that is very hard to sleep when you're scared or you're sad. It's very hard to eat, but you need to keep your strength. You need to keep your wits about you in order to be able to handle whatever's coming your way. And nutrition and sleep are very important. Those are two that I can think of off the top of my head. Exercise is always amazing, and I'm always going to say that. I'm sure you have a lot more tips, and I know you love to talk about exercise too, Becky, but it is. I mean, sometimes I'm going to say personally, sometimes when I'm in the thick of it, I do not exercise. I cannot exercise when I am down, when things are happening. I know it would make me feel better if I did, but even the idea of going out for a run, which would be really, really good for me when I'm really stressed, right? My head would be so full of, but for some people, that's what works best. And so if that works for you, I say go for it. Just don't beat yourself up if you can't, because you'll be able to again sometime. But just know that that's a great way to take care of yourself, a hot bath, things like that. I'm sure you have other tips. Go ahead, Becky. You share some.
Well, I would like to just kind of comment on some of the things that you've said. So for me and my grief, I could not eat for weeks and everything made me sick. And that's normal. That's a totally normal response to trauma or grief. Grief is so exhausting. I will say I agree with you on feeling it, but sometimes you can't feel 24 hours a day. Like I didn't sleep. I know people who've lost a loved one, they don't sleep for months sometimes. So kind of make time for a nap during the day because it's going to catch up to you. Sleep whenever you can if you have that luxury. But as far as like eating the healthy foods, if you can, if people are offering to bring you food, let them. If someone asks what they can do for you, try and go on a walk with them. It can be as slow as you want, but get out in the sun and be with someone who will safely let you talk. That is so important as well. But yeah, taking care of yourself, allowing for it. If you don't feel like running, don't. If a walk sounds like too much, walk around your house. I mean, do something, some kind of movement, stretching, yoga if you feel like. But like I said, maybe getting out with a friend would probably be the best. And if
Mm-hmm.
someone that you know in your life is going through a loss, these are things you can do for them, like bringing them food or offering to listen, offering to help in any way that you can to make their load lighter will really be the best for them. But yes, we are much stronger than we think, and you will get through this. It helps for so many people to try and find greater meaning. If you have religion in your life, now is the time. Get real with God or your higher power. I believe there's life after this one. And so our separation is very painful because we don't want to wait. We don't want to miss out on what we were supposed to have and experience with them, but trying to find out your own beliefs or gravitate towards others' beliefs. If you don't have your own, try and just trying on different ideas. Like, do you believe in a life after this one? Do you think you will find this person again? If not, how can you honor them and the life that they lived now? For me, my religion was very important in my losses because I was just left with this gaping hole. And I had to believe there was something after this. That's what got me through a lot of it. So for others, I've heard the same thing, right? Like we have to believe in something greater than ourselves that can help carry us through.
Absolutely. And if I could add something about that, I have been recently struggling with some pretty big things in my personal life, and we talked about loneliness recently, and the feeling of being alone is just really heightened for me. I think it's happening for me, not to me, as I like to say, and I do believe that when you're going through it, you don't feel like that, but you
Mm.
feel very victimized. But because I really need to draw on a lot of my own strength right now. I do have people in my life who thankfully you, Becky, and other people who love me and are here for me and help me, to support me. Most of the time I have to do this alone. And I've had to draw on my belief in something greater than myself. I've absolutely had to. Um, I'm not like a religious person per se. I have a lot of beliefs about spirituality, but to really have to draw on people that have passed in my life, like their souls, their energy, their beingness in heaven or wherever they're at. I think they're in heaven. That's what I think. That's what I believe. But wherever they are, wherever you believe they are, I believe they're in heaven, and it's brought me into a whole new realm of connectedness with that
Mm.
those higher beings. And so that may not be for everyone, this whole conversation might not be for everyone, but sometimes life pushes you into really, really having to rely on things that are greater than yourself. And it is truly, truly quite the experience when you do. It is absolutely the most beautiful experience. You're not alone. That you've got, your loved ones and God and Jesus and whoever you believe in on your side. And it's very, very supportive and beautiful and so helpful. It doesn't solve everything because we're, sort of feel like we're separated from them, but because we're on earth and they're not, but we're all connected, and it really, really brings you into that awareness of like these are my people. Like we're all united. We just don't know it sometimes. And so loss really, really ups your game spiritually, I'll say. It really has for me. It's really brought me into some very direct revelations, I guess you could say, of the stuff out there, up there, wherever there is real. And for me, I think that's beautiful. That makes me feel comforted. So I wanted to say
I
that.
love that. I love that. Yeah, for me, and I always will talk about when my babies died, because that was the hardest thing I've ever been through. But for me and my beliefs, believing in a savior who understands me perfectly was what got me through that. So, and I also believe in those that have passed on. They're still invested in us, and they're still helping us all along the way, for sure. We're not alone. I believe in a God who would never send us here all by ourselves. He provided his son and our loved ones to have that connection that you talked about. So I guess that would be my biggest takeaway for someone listening, is you really are not alone in this. And maybe no one else on this earth has experienced exactly what you're going through, but there are people who can understand and relate. Reach out to them, find those support groups, find those friends that are, as I said, safe, that can sit with you in this grief. Find your God, find a higher power, find a way to make it through, because it's worth it. And like I said at the beginning, you won't always feel this way. You will be able to look back and see how the pain has lifted and how healing has occurred. But when you're in it, just love yourself and be there for yourself, and surround yourself with others who can do the same. We are so glad that you guys tuned in this week. We always love chatting about these topics and hoping to put that lens of self-love over the way we look at things. And so we've had some kind of heavier topics lately, but we'd love to hear any suggestions. If you want us to talk about something else, we're open to it. Find us in our Facebook group, Try Self Love. You can also email us at tryselflovepodcast@gmail.com. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.